Hey guys, Chris Fayte with Cheat the Game coming back at you. Today I'm just taking a look at something I just ran into not too long ago actually, and I was playing Vendetta Curse of Raven's Cry, and I'm just trying to get more cheats for the ship and some of these stat values and everything, and I noticed that there's a cell or your mast on your ship. It also has a separate health value than your ship does. Your ship is two integers. Basically, it is your current max ship health and your max cap, and they're both 4 byte. So I just moved the 4 byte cap into the current ship health, and I have infinite ship health. But the mast does something completely off the wall different. The mast itself, its health value, is stored in a float. But its mast cap, the health value for the cap of the mast, is actually an integer. So to move the cap into the float, we have to convert it. And that's what we're taking a look at today. I'm going to go ahead and bring everything on up. And I'm going to show you a couple of ways that we can convert an integer into a float value and keep storing that integer cap into a float. So I'll be right back with you. Okay, I brought up the game and attached cheat engine to it, and I accidentally loaded my cheats with it. Let me get to this location here.
Guess you need your boat repaired.
We're at the boat repair place, and that's what we're looking at. Now, our ship at the moment has two different health values. One is for the hull, which is the body of the ship, and one for the sails. So we have two different health values. I've already got infinite health for the hull, but I'm trying to get infinite health for my sails. So you see the current value being at 200 and the cap being at 1400. Now it is being multiplied by 100, so the normal value would be 2 float and 14 4 byte. That's the problem that we have here. The cap is on a 4 byte integer and the current is on a float. And we want to write our cap to that float value, but they're not interchangeable. So we have to convert this integer to a float and then have it right to that location, and that's what we're concentrating on. So let's go ahead and look up that address. I know it's on a float value. I know it's at 2 right now, so let's do a new scan. So exact value of 2, and being funky like this, I'm just going to do increased value every time we heal up. So 351, because I don't want to miss it. And let's heal up a little bit more, 492, increase value, and here it is right here. Okay, and I know that's it right there. And what I want to do is let's go ahead and I'm going to find out what's accessing this address, and as long as we're in the shop, something is monitoring it. So as long as we just go back to the screen, you'll see that something is monitoring it when we're at the shop. Well, I've already traced it back to this source right here, and this is before it multiplies it by 100, and that's where I want to go with it. But first I want to bring up our address for our cells, which is in this particular location. It's using the ECX register, and that ECX register is pointing to the offset of 2B4, where our cell value is located. So I want to look up that register and see all the values it's pointing to. Let's go ahead and go to that in the memory view so we can have that location. You can see here where it's loading up our cell value. As far as reading the assembly code, it's loading up our cell value, multiplying it by 100, and then it's being divided by the integer. And we're getting into what this particular command means. This is what this lesson is about, so bear with me on that. But right here is where we're interested in. We need to modify it before it hits that multiply and goes on down and does whatever it needs to do with it to get to here. So let's go to dissect data. We copied down the base ECX, I think. I don't remember. Let's go back to it. Let's copy that down, Control C, come back to structures and Control C, and we're going to define a new structure. Ah, crap. Well, I guess sometimes that happens. Let's go ahead and see if we can troubleshoot this quickly. Now, first off, you want to make sure you got the complete address in there. That's usually the number one thing, especially with 64-bit games. When you get this unnamed structure, you don't have the full address in here. Sometimes it'll only give you just the 16-bit value or 32-bit value, and you have to add more to it. But in this case, it's a debugger issue, and it's just, this game is that finicky. So what I need to do is actually turn the debugger off. So let me make sure I'm at that location, and I'll save that there, and let's turn the debugger off and do it again. It should work this time. There we go. Alright, so we need to go down to 2B4. That's where our location is. And if you see here, it has not interpreted things correctly. It's not showing us 2B4, and I happen to know that our value, our cap, is located at 2B0, and it's a 4 byte. So I've done all this work already, so all we need to do is change that to a 4 byte to show the correct value, which is 14. This being times by 100 later on, but for right now it's 14 here, and we need to bring up that 2B4 so I can show you it's a float value. So we're just going to borrow this offset right here, and we're going to change that to 2B4 and set that at a float. Alright, so now it's showing our current value, 4.92, and our cap, which is at 14. They're later being multiplied by 100 that you saw. So what I need to do is have this 14 converted to a float, and then wrote to this address here that's holding that float value. And that's what we're going to do. So you see that there are two different value types that we want to work together. And that's all we really need this for. I just wanted to show you that. Let me clear this list. I don't want to confuse anybody. I'll just get rid of these cheats for now because we don't really need them right now. Let me get that address back. And we're coming here to this location. And we're going to jump right in it. We know that our cap's located at 2B0. We know that our cell value is located at 2B4. We know that 2B0 is an integer. We know 2B4 is a float. And we want it to we want to modify it right here before it hits that multiplication. So we're going to jump right into the script. First off, I'm going to show you the easy way to convert an integer to a float and have it store it, okay? And all we're going to do is do just a regular AOB injection. I'm just going to call this cell HP. Click OK. That's all we really need. We're going to leave this no, we're going to modify this for the time being. This is the original code. It's loading the word pointer, which is our 2B4 offset at the ECX registry, which is our cell value. We're going to change that to our cap, 2B0. Now the easy way to do this is we just need to change this command right here. We need it to load in an integer, and it'll convert to a float. Right in the middle between the F and the load, which is float load, we're going to stick an I for integer. Field, F-I-L-D, field. What it's doing is loading an integer and converting it to a float. Now since it's using that value in arithmetic and mathematics already, we do not want to pop it off the stack. We want to keep it on the stack. So instead of a float store and pop, we're just going to use a float store. It's going to store the float, and it's going to continue doing its arithmetic with it. So normally we would do float store and pop when we're done with it, and we just need it saved there, popped off the stack to use whatever it needs it for, or the registry. We're going to just use float store instead. Alright, because it's still working with this value right here, still needing to use it. So basically that's it. It's loading up an integer that we said here, and it's storing it to this offset here, and it'll be stored in float form. So if our theory is correct, this will change to 1400 when it reads this location. And it's not constantly reading, so it's like we got to click on the screen to make it read it, but we have to be at the shop too, I believe, or something happening to ourselves. So let's go ahead and save that to the current cheat table, and let's just see what happens. Let me minimize this. I'm going to label that cells test int to float. And after this, I'm going to show you a harder way to do it, but it's more, you'll see this a lot, especially when you're looking up assembly code. But I'm going to go ahead and turn this on. We're going to go back to our table. You can see that these voided out right here, so I can no longer repair it. So let's go back out and let's just check our stats and take a look. 1400. So it has successfully changed that integer to a float. Now I want to show you a different way of doing it. It's not really a different way, just a longer route to do it. And I use this method, especially when I have to add floats, add doubles, things like that. You can use these methods here. And there's another command I want you to learn, which is a convert command, okay? So let me reload where I'm at right here, where it's back to 200. I accidentally saved it earlier, but I got it back down to where we can use it again. So let's go back to the salesman. And we're back at 492. That's good. So we can use that. And I'm not going to really look it up this time. I'm just going to, since we're at this location, I'm going to find out what addresses this instruction accesses. So it'll just pop up our... We don't really need that, but I like having it. Just in case we need to do more things later. And there's our address, our new address for it. But really, we don't really need it because we know all the information we need to know to successfully write the other script. And you saw this works perfectly. It's easy, simple. That's the best way to do it as far as converting an integer to a float and storing it as a float. Okay? But here's another way, and this method will serve you well in adding floats, adding doubles, borrowing XMM registers. You can use this technique for many other different things without having to convert, but we're going to use it to convert, okay? So this is a good method. We're going to expound on this method I'm about to show you in more detail at a later time, okay? But what we're going to learn now is how to borrow an XMM register. Okay, any register you want, we need to use it for a float. We've talked about borrowing registers in the past. We're now going to borrow an XMM register. We cannot use a standard push and pop with XMM registries, not with doubles registry units. All right, so here's how we do it. We need to store it into our source pointer, which is ESP. We have to store that into our source pointer, and we need to allocate bytes for that source pointer. Alright, so first off the bat, let's allocate our bytes for our source pointer. We're going to use ESP. Okay, so the way to do that is you sub ESP and however many bytes you want to allocate. So it'll allocate 20 bytes for us in the ESP registry that we can use for this particular location. Okay, sub 20 bytes. That means reserve 20 bytes for my use. Sub 20 bytes. Do not use those bytes. Let me use them. Basically what that means, okay? So the computer will not use those bytes with anything but for whatever we're writing here. Alright? Alright, so right off the bat, we need to borrow an XMM register. We can pick any one we want. We need to store it in that ESP so we can restore it back at a later time. Okay, so to do that, we're going to use the command, because we don't know what's in that. We don't know if it's holding a double value. We don't know if it's holding a 0. We can look this information up and find out, and possibly use SS. But to save that, we can use the command DQU. Move a double quad unit into ESP, and we can pick whichever registry we want. XMM registry. I'm going to use 0. Alright, so now it's saved whatever was in XMM. It's the same as pushing another registry onto the stack. It's almost the same as using push EAX, so to speak. Okay, now we can use that XMM 0 registry for whatever we need it for, as long as we give it back. Alright, so now we're going to learn this command, CVT, which means convert. And we want to convert an integer into a float, so we're going to convert SI for an integer to a float. Alright? And this is more like a sentence than anything. Okay? Usually you see that that's just sub is short for subtract. That's short for move. And then it just uses abbreviations for the other meanings. Well, this is like a sentence. Convert an integer to, don't think of that 2 as the number 2. Think of it more like the word 2. T0. Alright? Convert an integer to a float. Float. There we go. And if we wanted to convert a float to an integer using the convert command, we'd have to add another T on convert. And then you just the float to an integer. Alright? That's the only difference. You gotta add that extra T and switch these two. But convert an integer to a float. Alright? So we need to, where do we want to store that value? We want to store it in the XMM registry. That's our carrier registry. It's going to carry our value to our offset of 2B4. So let me copy this down here. This is our original code. We need that. I shouldn't have deleted it. It's our original code, so we need it to load 2B0, which is our 4-byte 14 right here in 4-byte, and it's going to convert it to a float, and we just need it to write that value. Just move it on into our offset ECX plus 2B4, which is our address XMM0. Oops, my bad. XMM0. Alright. So far we allocated memory, and using the ESP registry we're allocating 20 bytes. Really, that means reserve 20 bytes. Okay. Moving a double quad word, which whatever's in XMMO is being moved into ESP. Now we can use it for whatever we want it for. We need you to convert an integer to a float and store it into XMMO. Here we need XMMO to move it into our current cell health. So cap to current. So now we need to give XMMO back to the computer, and we do it the exact opposite, which is move DQU and whatever's in the ESP, whatever it saved originally. And we need to deallocate those bytes we originally saved, which is add. Go ahead and use those for whatever you need them for. I don't need them anymore. To ESP. Same thing. Make sure to use a comma. Alright? So I hope you understood that, and you can use this type of function for all kind of things other than just converting. You can use it to add different float values and things of that nature. You can borrow XMM registries for different purposes. I mean, sky's the limit. Alright, but this comes in really handy, and it's a good technique to know. Alright, but we're just using it to convert. So let's see if it works. I'm going to go ahead and turn this on. I'm going to go back to our table.
Guess you need your boat.
And take a look. It did the same thing the other way did. So you got two different ways you can do stuff like that. It's real simple, real easy. Plus you learned how to borrow XMM registries if you need to. You have to do it a lot differently. You cannot use a standard push and pop. Alright? And there you go. That's really all I had time for. I just wanted to throw that out there. We hadn't really covered this yet, and I want to get into some more advanced techniques later, and it really helps to know how to do this right here, how to borrow XMM registries, and we're going to be using that in the future so we can do more cool things, and we're going to be getting into a lot of great stuff later as well. So if you have any questions, come join us over here at the Facebook channel. We have grown exponentially. I didn't realize there were so many people interested in game hacking out there, but we'd love to have you too. Please come join us, and great game hackers hang out here. They're happy to answer questions. They're really good at helping. They're a lot better than I am. A lot of these guys are, and I learn a lot there myself. So I would really love to have you guys come join us. Also, come join us over at guidedhacking.com. That's guidedhacking.com. They go over everything from C++, C#, IDA Pro, all the way into reverse engineering. It's a great source for beginners, all the way up to high-level advanced. They really know their stuff. Great bunch of guys over there, so come join them over there. Alright guys, you take care. Keep on hacking. Most importantly, please enjoy yourself. That's really what it's all about. You cheat the game, fellas, because believe me, doesn't mind cheating you. You take care now.